Jeremy Clarkson has said, I'm surrounded by farmers and plasterers and brickies and butchers, and all I hear all day long is that there is too much immigration. He said, but if they say this out loud or if they go on a march, they are told by the London elite that they are far-right extremists or racist thugs. For the most part, he says, they're not. They're just people who know that they have to shut up when the last post is played and that a cheese rolling down a hill is funny.
Jeremy Clarkson, the outspoken journalist, has just dropped a bombshell on Keir Starmer during a live broadcast, leaving the Labour leader utterly blindsided. Clarkson shredded the values Starmer claims to uphold as thoroughly as Starmer has ripped apart his own hollow promises to the British people. Stay tuned to witness Clarkson's merciless takedown of Starmer. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the latest hot news from the UK political scene.
Pound threshold in IHT.
Well, if you own a farm or land, you have an additional £1 million inheritance tax than anyone else does. So already they have additional land that they can pass on without paying any inheritance tax.
Yep.
Honesty and loyalty, values the country desperately needs, seem lost under leaders like Keir Starmer, who appears more concerned with political strategies than the realities faced by the public. For example, under Starmer's policies, owning a farm or a substantial piece of land could saddle you with an additional £1 million in inheritance tax. This doesn't just add to the financial burden, it also creates an unfair advantage for those fortunate enough to inherit wealth without the heavy tax load. So, what exactly triggered Jeremy Clarkson's outrage? The answer lies in Starmer's latest fiscal disaster. His policies are widely criticised for intentionally pushing retirees and the working class further into hardship. It seems Starmer is willing to sacrifice the financial security and dignity of ordinary people just to fill the budget gaps he helped create. If you care about the future of Britain, don't miss these unvarnished truths that other media outlets fear to report. Clarkson posed a scathing question. Who would welcome Starmer into their local pub? The resounding answer, no one. He'd be the first to be shown the door. According to Clarkson, Starmer has enraged millions by labelling Brexit voters as far-right extremists or even modern-day Hitlers. Clarkson warned that such disdain and vilification could ignite a fierce backlash that neither Starmer nor the BBC would be prepared to handle. Clarkson understands the mindset of ordinary people beyond London, those worried about immigration but dismissed as racists by Starmer's allies. He asserts that the public is not racist, they're simply expressing legitimate concerns. Over 4 million people voted for reform and even more supported Brexit. For Starmer to label them as far-right is a direct insult, further stoking public anger. Unapologetically, Clarkson issued a stern warning. If Starmer and the BBC continue to fan the flames of justified outrage, they will face an unprecedented wave of public fury. This time, Clarkson's anger isn't about trivial matters like slow-moving cars or tractors. It's about something far more consequential, the new inheritance tax on British farms. This isn't just an inconvenient law, it's a devastating blow to British agriculture. The tax threatens to dismantle farming traditions, forcing families to sell off land held for generations just to pay the tax. Young farmers may find themselves unable to inherit their family farms, as these assets will likely be sold to cover exorbitant tax bills, putting centuries-old agricultural practices on the brink of extinction. Does the future look any brighter? Far from it. The collapse of British agriculture seems imminent. On paper, a 20% inheritance tax on estates over £1 million might seem reasonable, but in reality, it's a death sentence for farmers. With skyrocketing land values, farmers simply don't have the cash to pay these hefty taxes. Clarkson didn't hold back, calling Starmer one of the worst prime ministers Britain has ever had. Though only 81 days into his term, his actions have already plunged the nation into crisis. Clarkson has been relentless in his criticism, calling the new inheritance tax policy a disaster and a direct threat to centuries-old farming traditions. Farming families face the heartbreaking prospect of losing their land, with many blaming Starmer's Labour-led government for this crisis. The tragic story of John Chelsworth, a farmer who took his own life under the unbearable pressure of these new tax hikes, has become a symbol of the devastation caused by Starmer's policies. Chelsworth dedicated his life to building his family's farm, but the inheritance tax news broke him. After his death, his son publicly condemned Starmer, blaming the policies for pushing his father to the edge. Tax figures are no longer just dry numbers on paper. They've become a life or death burden for thousands of farming families. Clarkson forcefully pointed out that such policies starkly reveal the lack of understanding among leaders who are fixated on pushing global agendas without any regard for the realities faced by ordinary people. Their priorities are not the stability and safety of their citizens, but rather implementing ideologically driven policies while disregarding immigration issues and national values. This is why many feel abandoned, as though their voices no longer matter in society. With his signature sarcasm, Clarkson didn't miss the chance to attack the weaknesses of Starmer and other leaders, describing their decisions as an affront to the traditional values that the British people have always cherished and respected. Starmer's recent re-emergence on the political stage has been underwhelming at best. His presence feels akin to watching a chess player hopelessly floundering while their opponent, like Clarkson, is 10 moves ahead. Not only are Clarkson's criticisms sharp, but his smirking delivery carries an air of mockery, as if he's relishing the sight of his adversary struggling. Notably, Clarkson's views extend beyond mere commentary. They've sparked a wave of influence that could resonate for years to come, offering a distinct and profound perspective on the global economic and political landscape. Clarkson highlighted the United States' deregulation policies, tax cuts, and promotion of affordable energy as a strategic move revitalising its economy. He argues that this is the necessary pivot for a Western superpower like the US at a time when other nations are stuck with outdated governance models. Clarkson warned that if European leaders such as Starmer, Macron and other globalists don't promptly pivot and adopt similar reforms, they'll face the risk of economic stagnation and decline. Foreign investments, capital and exports would flock to the US, leaving Europe's economy in dire straits, even on the brink of collapse. The influx of capital into America would not only fuel robust economic growth, but simultaneously drive the decline of other economies, particularly in Europe. Clarkson, in his typically astute fashion, seemed pleased by America's policy shift, but expressed skepticism about Starmer's ability to grasp the importance of this transformation. According to Clarkson, Starmer will struggle to keep up with these new trends if he clings to his outdated mindset. What's more concerning is that in the most recent parliamentary session, Starmer managed to attend for only 34 days, 22 of which were spent on international trips as he paraded himself as a global leader, while ignoring pressing domestic issues. Clarkson didn't hold back, lambasting Starmer for wasting time on diplomatic tours instead of addressing urgent challenges at home. For Clarkson, Donald Trump's resurgence symbolises a refreshing new approach. Despite the controversies surrounding Trump, he demonstrates a clear commitment to prioritising the interests of the American people, something Western leaders have seemingly neglected for decades. Starmer, who stubbornly clings to globalisation ideals, recently met Emmanuel Macron in Paris. Clarkson humorously imagined the discomfort these two leaders must have felt witnessing Trump's success in the US, while they continue to flounder with outdated policies. This contrast only highlights their backwardness in a world gradually shifting towards policies focused on national interests. Clarkson remarked it would be fascinating to see how these European leaders react under the pressure of Trump's swift accomplishments. Clarkson also revisited the controversies surrounding Trump, from his stance on NATO and tariffs to tax cuts. What do people think about the issues we have discussed in today's video? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest political developments in the UK. Thank you all and see you in the next videos.